Welcome to the Grand Shorts, a part of the Grand Podcast. The Grand. My name is Niels Tuller Winter, and I'm the creator, editor, and host of The Grand. The Grant is an independent podcast initiative with the ambition to dig into all corners of the EU R&D funding system on topics of interest for the full EU R&D funding community. This episode is part of my Shorts format. It is episode number 1 in my Research Manager Shorts series. First, I need to announce the winner of last month's competition to win the Grand Mock, and this time my push worked and I got a lot of comments. So, the one to win this time is Vladiana Petalachian from Aspire. And why? Because the exchange I had with her was almost a meta example of how difficult it is to get people to make comments, and I got her to make comments. So, congratulations, Vladiana. Now, I'm slowly getting my short format up and running with stated frequency once a month. Since January, Kasper and I have been running the Communication Short series. We still miss one recording, but Kasper got ill, so I have to move on until he's ready. And next up is a short series with focus on building research manager capacities in your research organization. Very interesting. Stephanie Harfensteller is EU Research Coordinator at 4 an der RWTH in Aachen, in Germany. Some years ago, Stephanie started to push for a strategy to attract more EU funding to the institute, but that takes some time to mature in the research world. She was stubborn and managed to convince management of the added value in a structured approach. We agreed to make a short series with focus on this process and giving tips and tricks to other research institutes who go through the same process. From now on, my shorts episodes comes one at a time and not in batches of 3, because I can see that some people miss episodes when I release 3 at a time. And that's a pity. Now you can still win a mug for the best comment. So stay tuned on LinkedIn when I push you for comments the next month. Please enjoy. The Grand. Welcome to The Grand, the EU funding podcast. Now, as you have already seen when you tapped into this episode on Spotify, Apple Podcast, wherever, this is a short. And when this comes out, you will already have been introduced to also communication short series. Because that's what I'm going to try to do with my shorts. I'm going to try to make some series here and there, covering different elements, different areas of EU R&D funding, but in the short format and with a guest, because that makes a lot of sense for me. And today, I have you, Stephanie. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. I'm happy to be here again and to join you again.
And happy to have you on this experiment. It's good. Well done. Now here, so the same as I did with the communication short by Kasper, he introduced himself shortly. So short introduction here in the first episode, and then for the next 2, we're just going to leave it out. So a few words about yourself.
Yes, so my name is Stephanie Harfensteller. I'm a EU Research Coordinator at FIR at RWTH Aachen, and my role has started with EU projects and are currently developing towards coordinating a research management team together with my colleagues, and also covering national and regional funding, but my origins are from EU. And at FIR, we focus on industrial management and helping small, medium enterprises and industrial partners to grasp kind of the big transformations we have today and to help them navigate through that big cosmos of change, so to say, and give them helpful tools how to implement them and how to become a company of the future. That's what we call it, and become future resilient and ready, so to say.
Mm-hmm. Now, you we had a conversation I really liked with our last episode we did together. So I said, look, we need to do something more. And then I suggested, why don't we make a small series? And you said, look, I would really like to do something about the fact that we have to build up capacities for research management here in the office. And then that's it. That's why we're here. We have sketched out 6 episodes, short episodes. And I never shot shorts. I never shot any series down, so there might come more. But for now, we will develop 6 for you, and they will come in batches of 3. Just shortly about the motivation here. So you want to professionalize and build up a structured strategy and approach to funding in general. Can you just a few words before we start digging into the first episode topic here?
Yeah, so our motivation was basically that we needed an effective way how to deal with research in a growingly complex research ecosystem. So we kind of identified that in order to give our researchers more space to actually focus on their research and make their research proposals and work excellent, they needed support to navigate through this landscape of regulatory and ethical considerations, international partner networks, complexity of writing the proposals, and social, societal, and economic impacts. All of these, things that you have to consider today. And they were struggling. They were really struggling. And we also had this additional aspect that after 4.5 years, our researchers leave our institute. So with them, we had a huge knowledge drain because they learned how to write proposals, they learned how to administer research projects, but we don't have a system of senior researchers. We have always incoming fresh flesh, so to say, from university, young master students who are really ambitious, have creative ideas, that write really good proposals, and they make a very steep learning curve while they're here. But they're also leaving very fast again, and leaving us with projects halfway through. They wrote a proposal but couldn't work on it because their time ended, because they did their PhD and went to industry. So we had to solve this problem to, on the one hand, keep our business model, because so to say, this way we work with PhDs, etc. It's been a bit of a unique aspect, and at the same time, it's also been really effective because, on the other hand, we work closely with industry, and a lot of our researchers go into industry after their time at FIR. And at the same time, we had to ensure that we still did excellent research, and we wanted to make sure that we do not only do research for the purpose of, opening the drawer and putting in the project afterwards, but we wanted to establish something that, from the idea you have in mind of doing a research project, you already know or have a brief idea about how it's going to look like once it enters the market. So the idea was to have this research management system in place, or this team in place, that guides you through every step of the on the way, and that it's not people specific but organizational knowledge that we establish here.
Yeah, and I know that you have been the one that has been lifted this from the very beginning, some years ago. So this is also why it's very nice to have you in for this, because you've been really like a pioneer in the institute, lifting this. So now you're so far making management realizing through what you've done that this is something that is a good idea to do something about, which is a very nice and direct bridge to the first thing that we put here. So today, in the first episode here, we're going to talk about strategy. In the second episode, we're going to talk about organization and framework, and then we're going to talk about network. networking in research management in these batches. Now here in the first strategy, of course, always important to start with the strategy when you throw yourself at something at this. And strategy, it rhymes with management. If not in actual wording, then in figuratively speaking. Now, we put here management commitment. Can you put a few words on your thoughts about this?
Well, I think because it's a deep change within the organization, which has to be supported by all levels and supported by the management board to give you the freedom to develop such a research management roadmap. Because it's not something you do today and then it's implemented tomorrow. It's something that takes years and it needs strategic commitment. It needs support from all levels, from administrative roles, from the researcher teams, the head of departments. Everyone is involved because it is important for everyone. But this initial commitment by the management gave us the right standing and also the financial capacities to evolve in this direction, that they supported us, and they even had a clear vision of where we want to go. So, of course, I dreamed of having something like a research management team or leading something like that all these years, but it only changed when management kind of recognized the efforts, saw how successful we've been in the past years with managing EU proposals in a strategic way. That's what we talked about last time. That they kind of identify, well, it makes sense to have this for all research activities and have someone who's kind of managing it and making sure that we have all the rules in place, all the legal frameworks, financial frameworks in place, that overlooks the political influence and everything else. And that was not something the researchers could cover themselves.
Yeah, and you know what? What this is all about in this context is the rising star of the research manager role. It's this is core in what everybody I have had in this podcast, research managers. That's what they have all been saying has been a challenge. The recognition from management side that you need a research manager because many have just relied on PhDs or students, whatever, could write these things themselves, professors, or doing it on the side, but it requires a little bit more. So that's of course absolutely core to that the recognition of that role is there before you roll this out, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that starting point. So, of course, everybody should know that what we're doing here, we try to give you a structure. So, if you need to do this in your research institute, just some tips and tricks, just some guidelines, practical examples of how you, Stephanie, has done this. So, the next block we have here, it's considerations before starting, and we divided that into two. We divided that into motivation that you need to be aware of before starting, and then the challenges you need to be aware of. So we start off with the plus, motivation. So, and we put 3 bullets under here. We have the pains and the shortcomings, the needs, the wants, the goals, and the gain. So let's start out with this. So what have you dotted down?
Well, for the motivation, I mean, we said we start with pains and shortcomings. I already highlighted them a bit. And you could probably frame it in a way that there was just a need to adopt to a rapidly changing research ecosystem. So you needed to have a functioning team in place that is prepared for all the tricky little things that the commission is coming up now with, lump sums and everything that we've been talking about these past years of change and ethical considerations, all these kind of regulatory aspects that are becoming more and more important in research, that people are prepared for that and that they don't have to kind of learn first how to do it to apply it to their proposal. So that was one of the pains, so that it's not always a big cloudy kind of foggy thing that you look at when you want to write a proposal, but that you can focus on what you really want to do in the scientific excellence that you want to focus on.
Exactly this thing that you're like that you have the research manager to take care of this.
Exactly. Yeah, and before that, I mean, we did the pains were, and I think every research institution can relate to that. That through these regulatory aspects, when you do that as a researcher, you don't put emphasis on something like, oh, there's an audit coming at the end of the project. We have to prepare for that. Or how do we actually administer the project and make sure that the money we claim we want to use, we're actually using that money for the project in an efficient way, so that we can cover our costs, that we keep the that the compliance is taken care of, all these aspects, because the policymakers or the people who give you the money for the funds, they're increasingly looking at these aspects. They want to make sure that the money they give out, which is public money, so taxpayers' money, that this is actually used for driving a project not only on the content side, but they are effectively using the money and that it has some impact. And this is beyond, and that's what you said before, something that a researcher alone can focus on, that they can have in mind. And the next thing is, the other pain is, we were applying to all kinds of projects out there where we had partners in place that slightly were related to the topics that we had as research topics in the institute. So the main goal was to get the money and to have the projects in place. But this didn't really help us to have a consistent research strategy. So it didn't align with what we want to focus on, what could bring our institute forward in excellent science. So we said we want to change this as well. We want to make sure the research we do is sustainable and pays into our overall research strategy. And that, again, needed that wasn't in place. That was a shortcoming, so to say, and we wanted to change that. We wanted to make sure all the projects we do feed into our expertise and excellence. And we were in a very comfortable situation because funding, until now was really well established and really good on national and on European side. So yes, I think these are were the main pain points. I would say.
But it also reflects so if we sort of look at needs, obviously, the more we dig into these things as a research organization, there's a bigger need for having back office support. It's very simple. It binds things together. It's very that's quite simple, right? Just to have a steady hand. It's always have someone to ask, look, how is it with this? How is it with the lump sum? How do we need to, or like, how is it with the reporting on the finance? Like all these things where, because the research teams are focused on research. That's why they want to do this. But you have so many other things they need to be aware of. So, and what goals, but obviously to professionalize, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah. To have a more structured.
Yeah, you have a much more structured approach. You have standardized processes in place. You have templates ready. That would be the goal, that in the end, there is, on the one hand, a self-learning tool that helps the researchers, answer all the basic questions that you have. support when you one-on-one support when you're writing the proposals, but you have like different elements in place that make sure that the researcher can focus on the research and that everything else is taken care of, and you can make sure that you're compliant to the rules and regulatories aspects, and that you make sure you have excellent research. And that's the other aspect that was important for us, that it actually has a big impact. So the three elements or goals that we have is increase our impact, make it efficient, and make it sustainable.
Yeah.
So fitting to our research strategy.
Which all leads us to the last bullet of gain, that if you sort of follow this, you will both have you will win more projects, and even if you don't win them, you will have a collaboration that you build up with the ones you've been doing proposals with. Fruitful collaborations that you can always put into a structured frame in your organization. Like fewer will be afraid. Yeah. So the organization will professionalize its face externally in relation to be active on not only do research internally, but be actively involve itself with the outside world, so to say, through partnerships to reach higher levels of research.
Yeah, and if you use a metaphor, I would say, you want to reduce your heart rate a bit, from a very stressful heart rate where you're, always in almost, having a heart attack about all the rules and regulations that apply towards a more healthy and resilient lifestyle, so to say, how to do research, right? So that there are not so many shocks and aspects within writing proposals, managing projects that you could probably save when you have the system in place.
It's still got to be a heavy, like higher frequency in the heart rate, but it helps.
Yeah.
No. It is a short, so we will need to move on to the next block here. So considerations before starting the challenges. Here we put timing, acceptance, and resources and capacities. So can you put some meat on those bones?
Yes. Well, what we kind of first brainstormed about these challenges, timing, you need to have actual, and there you need the management again. You need to have time to establish this. You don't have, like, if you are in the daily work of, how did I name that? Like operational tasks,
Yeah.
and you're just hustling from one aspect to the next, like saving, like burning out fires, like, I don't know what
Putting
the
out
term in English.
fires.
Yeah, burning out fires. Yeah,
Putting out
all the
fires.
time. Yeah, putting out fires all the time. You don't have the time to actually think about strategy and the challenges that were ahead. And I would also say you always need a team. You can't establish something like a research management team just on your own. That's a very difficult thing to do. You need sparring partners, you need people that you can count on, that you can talk to, and that you can establish a strategy with. And yes, time and making, also having a kind of the pain has to be really high in the organization that they want to change something. I mean, that's not a good way of doing it probably, but it needs to be there. I mean, if you have, if you have a forward-looking management, and we kind of have this with when the management changed, they saw what was coming, and they kind of saw also the need to change. We were in a good position. They gave us time to establish, or they're giving us time because we're still in the process of establishing research management. So that's the one part. And acceptance is also an essential part. I mean, we're not sitting in an ivory tower. So if we just sit here on our office, not talking to the researchers, not talking to administrative staff, all the different people in the organization, making sure that they see this as a benefit to them and accept it as a new entity within the organization, you don't get all the information you need. You're not invited into processes. It's not becoming organic within the organization if you don't have the acceptance of everyone. I mean, here everyone was applauding. They were really happy. The researchers, especially, they were really happy that finally there are people there in place helping them with this, reducing their heart rate, so to say, and maybe reducing the long hours that we're taking in, because everyone knows researchers focus on research and they work during the night and forever to get the things done on the last minute. Procrastination is a big issue. I mean, if you're a really good structured organized person, that works well, but it always leads to that, and you need people who give more structure in order to reduce this stress in writing proposals. So acceptance is really a big thing, and that they don't feel controlled. That you're an element of controlling them, and or supervising them, so to say, but that you're working with them. So acceptance is big part of it, especially because you need a management commitment. So you start top down, but in order to build it up, you need to work bottom up in order to establish a functioning and agile research management system, I would say. And the last point was about resources and capacities. And yes, I think that's also a big aspect, because for us, it was clear that we have to involve all the relevant roles in our organization. So we involved quality management from the start, knowledge management, the top management, the researchers, an interdisciplinary team of researchers, HR, administration. So we're trying to get everyone on board and to see it as their project too, because that way, point two, acceptance is made short. And for that, again, you need resources and capacities, because if everyone is just bounded by project money, they don't have the time and the capacities to work on this, and the resources to work on this, not capacities. And capacities is the other aspect. I didn't know all the answers to how to build up a research management system.
No.
I was quite blank on that. So you need to have the ability or the possibility to do courses either through EAMA or other networks, talk to colleagues who have been building up these kind of research management structures in their organization, and use your network in order to kind of figure out what is research management actually? What does it mean, what we need here? And where do I find explanations and aspects, making sure that everything is highlighted that we need? So capacity building was a big aspect too.
Yeah, because this is what most of you will face out there. And if you throw yourself at this, you will face the same issues here. Now, maybe we move on to the last block, connection with overall organizational strategy, because there we zoom out a little bit before we end this episode. So all this that we just been talking about now, Stephanie's been sharing with us, of course, needs to be seen in a larger picture from the organization. So we started with management. We're going to end also on in the helicopter here, because this thing needs to be seen in connection with where the organization is going. So we put here resources and research teams and content. Can you give an insight into how you work with this?
I think so when I prepared for this, I thought about the aspect. On the one hand, you need, because I'm not a practitioner from the field. I don't have a background in industrial engineering or anything like that. So I can touch the topics that we do research on here, but I'm not an expert. So for me to make sure that the strategy we or like the political strategy or the research topics we focus on, and we want to, streamline with research management, I always need input from the researchers. I need input on the one hand bottom up from actually what are the research topics they think are interesting right now, what are they working on in the different departments, what are the trends that they kind of see, and match this with political expectations. So, of course, the European Commission has its own view on how research should be done and what topics are trending and what are the topics where you can get more money for. And so you have to match this on that level. So that's really like top is the commission, and then you have the researchers. But you also need the people in the organization that do this strategic work, that think about, listen, we focus now on remanufacturing circular economy. Where does it take us, not only in a shorter project-based time frame, but in the long term? Where are we in 10 years? Where do we want to stand as an organization in 10 years? So you need to have people on board who focus on these aspects and think about a long-term research strategy for the organization to kind of build up the knowledge and the way you want to set up research management to make it sustainable.
Yeah.
Right. So, and that we kind of we already had this EU research practice team of researchers in place from all the different departments. So they covered this bottom part, the really creative and trendy and what they want to work on and where they're excited about research topics. And then you have the management board with the strategic insights and the long-term vision that go beyond the 4.5 years research time span of the regular researchers in our organization. And you have to match that with the political expectations. And if you connect all these dots, then you have this organizational research strategy. And I think that's really important.
Yeah. And it's vital to have, so you have the overall strategy of the organization. And actually also, if you're a company, you can listen to this. You have the overall organization of the strategy of where you want to go with that. And then you need to zoom out and then go in with a knife here and there. Where does the funding make sense in relation to where we want to go, and where does the funding come from, and so on and so forth, to help this organization to leverage these corners and build like the funding being a natural component of the overall organization strategy to move forward in different places. Yeah. That's and if you do manage to do that, then it's an extremely sustainable work you will be doing in relation to building up this framework of a research management in your research organization.
Yeah, and this sounds all really quite nice, to develop all this strategy and to have this in your head. But it's actually a big bubble and a big topic to develop such a strategy. It's not there from one day to the other. We've been working on this now for a year to develop our strategy, and we're still not done. And still, you have to kind of get working. It's not that you can wait 3 years to establish research management before you become operational. And that's kind of why we said the next part should be on organization management, because from the strategic perspective, you need to break it down somehow. You need to get working, otherwise you get really frustrated if you're just stuck in strategy all the time.
Which is a nice bridge. So this episode, first episode, I think that's it. Let's just wrap this up. Thanks. We will move on to the second episode shortly on organizational framework. Thanks for now.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Grant. Want to win the mug? Well, find this post on my personal LinkedIn profile or the Grant LinkedIn site. Share your thoughts, throw a question, or give us a feedback. All the Grant episodes have their own site on the Grant website. You'll find the link in the episode site where you listen to your podcast. On the site for this episode, you'll find a link to Stephanie's personal LinkedIn site and to Fear under RWTH Aachen. Further, there will be a link to my episodes category, The Grand Campus, where you find more episodes related to the research world. Next episode in the Grand Shorts will be released 19th of May, with the last recording in the Communication Short series. Now, I will go and arrange that mug for Vladiana. The Grand